This is a John Deere 15 horsepower LX, and it came to me then not running, and you can see the clutch hanging off the side right there, silver part. It had sheared off the bolt that held the clutch in. So I'm going to jack this thing up, and we're going to take a look and see what we can do with it. Okay, you can see in the center of the shaft there's broken bolt, and there's three different ways you can get that out of there. You can try to take a small chisel and try to make it move, or you can try to weld something onto it and then unscrew it that way, but you can see it's countersunk quite a ways in there. Or you can take a punch, which I'm going to do here in a second, and center punch it and use a left-hand drill to try to get it out. And that's the method I'm going to use. So let's see.
Stop.
You got my center punch, and you got to try to get as close to the center as you can, and it's quite hard because the bolt the bolt is in the center, but what you're seeing is not necessarily in the center. A good center punch. Make sure it's deep. You don't want your drill to walk. I've got my center drill, or my drill here, and I got a center drill in it. Right there, you can see that. It's a center drill you'd use on a lathe. And I'm going to touch up the center of that to open that hole up just a little bit more to make that center more center and a better bite, because I want to use a left-hand drill and I want it to go in correctly. So I'm going to hit that a little bit. This helps make the hole in the center. You probably see it. Okay, this is the difference between a left-hand drill and a right-hand drill. I'm trying to get them so you can see it well, but you can see the twist on the normal drill. That's the one that I'm turning right there. Goes to the right, and the other one goes to the left. It'll turn backwards. You have to have that drill in order to do this correctly. The idea is to drill the left-handed, and hopefully it'll grab the screw and back it out. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to put it in my drill, and I'm going to go in there and start drilling. And if we're lucky, it'll unscrew the broken part. Put a little lubricant on it, PB Blaster. And here we go. And these bolts are normally like a grade 5 or a grade 8 bolt, so they're hard. It's going to take a little bit to get them to drill in there, but be patient. Don't overforce the drill. What I did here, I went up one size in the drill bit because I had already had a hole started, and you can see it's unscrewing, and that's when you have a lucky day. Okay, now the threads look good and clean, and we now have to determine what the thread size was and the length of the bolt. So uh, that's what we'll look at next. Okay, if you look at this bolt, you can see it's snapped it off clean, so it's a hardened bolt, uh, and that's not unusual. But just to show you, it was a clean break. I don't know how they broke it. I'm going to slide the clutch back up on there and see one if it fits on there correctly, and maybe try to figure out what happened. If I can get the clutch over here, I got to undo it. The, the clutch has a keyway that's attached right to the clutch, and there's a keyway on the shaft. You got to line that up. By the way, if nobody's ever done that or seen these clutches before, they're electric clutches, and the pulley spins freely until that electric clutch pulls in an electromagnet and locks the clutch, and then that turns the belt and turns the blades. But I want to see how it fits. And there's a alignment here. There's a pin that's got to be aligned with that so the top part don't spin. Otherwise, it'll rip the wires out. That'll have to be put in place. I'm also looking at the depth. Once I get this up in here, I'm looking at the depth. And this is where I realized there may be a part missing. Yeah, you can see that hole. It doesn't. The clutch is all the way on, and I still got a lot of room there. So there's a bushing that's supposed to go in there because you can't just throw a washer on top of that. And that's where I found out there is a bushing. Kind of looks like a top hat. It's got a keyway in the side of it, and then it goes in there, it slides into the keyway, and it's probably about 1.25 inches long, I think it was, and it's gone. I've got the bolt part right here, and I was measuring it, and at the bottom of the threads, it's like 0.401, and there's some dirt on it and stuff, but so it's, for 7/16, it's 3.396. And so I thought it might be metric, but it's not. Anyways, I've got my, get this in front of it. This is a thread gauge, and on here it says 20. So that's 20 threads per inch. And if I put that against this right now, see if you can see it, that's what it is. It's counting 20 threads per inch. I tried a metric, 1.25. It was close, but there was air gap between it, so I knew it wasn't metric. So right now what I'm looking for is 7/16, 20. 7/16 bolt with 20 threads per inch. That's what that is. Now the depth, I'm thinking possibly 3 inches long. I was trying to make a washer. I found a piece of cast iron to try to make it, and it's just so full of holes, because that's the way cast iron is. Depends on how it was made, of how dense it is. But anyways, I don't have any piece of metal here, so I'm going to try to find a washer. I'm going to go get a hardened bolt, or try to buy the original manufacturer parts. Either way, we'll get this thing back together and get the deck back on it. So until I get the parts, see you later. Okay, so we found out this part right here. This is the way I was talking about, the top hat looking thing. You can see that's probably what, 3/8 of an inch thick. Goes in there about 1.25 inches. So the guy who owns this, he went and got the bolt and this, and he tried to buy this piece, and John Deere does not sell that piece separate. So he ended up buying another clutch. The whole thing is a brand new clutch, because he couldn't get this part right here. And I have installed it now. It's locked in on the back. Wiring's all attached down here. And I put this bolt in. And this washer is kind of concave, so it acts like a lock washer. It's kind of spring loaded when you pull this in. I tightened it, torqued it down to the specified torque, and it is now ready to work. And I want to show you, if I can. I can't. Yeah. So this part up here is the electromagnet. Can you see that? This is an electromagnet. And so this part down here turns 3 wheels. It's not doing anything. And then when the electromagnet's engaged, it pulls this up, it locks it, and that turns the blade on the mower deck. I don't know how that got broke, because the mower deck sits in here, and it should have been protected unless somebody had the mower deck off and caught this on something. But it snapped that bolt off up into the crankshaft, and that bolt is, like I said, about 3 to 3.5 inches long. So that's done. I did get the mower running. There was no fuel line and no filter, so I installed a fuel line and filter. The fuel pump did leak, so I took it apart, put it back together, so it does run. I actually drove this tractor in here this time. So the next thing I got to do is work on the deck, and let's go over there. So the mower deck, this will be going in next, but I'm going to weld this up over here. Come over here. It has a crack in here. There's a crack here. I've already beat this down a little bit more, but I'm going to beat it down into place. This was curled way back, and there's a crack that goes from here to here. I'm going to straighten this out a little bit more. You can see there's a hole there. I'm going to straighten that out a little bit more, and then I'm going to weld this up, and then I'm going to install this deck. So that'll be the next thing I do, and then I will install it, and I'll do a test run with it, see how she works. And the owner said he's going to do the cleaning up and painting. Otherwise, I would take this deck and probably either take a wire brush to it or something, clean it up, prime it, and paint it, because it really needs it. You got to protect that bare metal; it'll rust through real fast. Okay. So there we go.
That's it.
And if you want to see, here's real quick. So here's the fuel line. This is the fuel pump right here, and it was leaking around this. So I took it apart, cleaned it up, and it really wasn't in bad shape. It was just leaking, so it must have dried out. So I cleaned it, put it back together, and it's not leaking anymore. Then I replaced this fuel line with a hose, and the battery. The battery was dead. It was totally dead, and I think it's shot. It's probably going to have to be replaced. It won't even crank it over with it. I have to put my own jumpers on it and get to run. So there we are. Next thing it'll be is me out in the yard giving a test run.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I've got the mower deck on. Before I put it on there, I had to weld up here. This was all that had holes in it. It was broken, and this down here is the same thing. This edge on it. So I welded that up. Come over here to the other side. Well, before I go there, I took the starter off. The Bendix wasn't working very good, so I took it apart, cleaned it, and greased it. And it's working good. And then over here, this is the belt tensioner right here. This here. And this wouldn't even move. The pivot point down there, it was froze up, so I had to take it apart and clean it up and grease it. So that's working. And now, one more thing left to do on this, and I think it's the voltage regulator. I got one coming, but I'll show you what I did to test that. And when I first started out, this battery, I couldn't get to charge. It would only charge up to 8 volts. And all of a sudden, it decided to start charging to 12 volts. So, with my battery charger. So I'm going to start this. It's going to get noisy. that on the AC because it's alternating current. Get where you can see the gauge. And that's between the two white wires. It is showing that there's power coming out of the alternator, but it's not charging the battery. So this right here, this is the voltage regulator. Right here. This regulates the voltage so it doesn't go over 14 and boil the battery. So it's supposed to be actually running at 13 right now. And then this is also a rectifier. It takes AC voltages and turns to DC voltage so you can charge the battery, because the batteries are DC voltage, alternating current is AC voltage, and they're not the same. So one's direct current, one's alternating. So that's what I ordered. That'll be here tomorrow, and that'll be ready to go. I also adjusted the deck, and this thing actually runs pretty good now. It does have a little bit of a whine, but I think I greased up the bearings and it's getting quieter. But I'm going to take it for a ride. I'm glad the battery's up because it's showing almost 12.5 volts, which, yeah, I couldn't even get that high before. There it is. Once that rectifier is put in place, this little orange light will shut off and the battery will be charging. And this thing's ready to go cut grass. The owner has the hood, and he'll put that back on there. And he's going to do some other stuff, clean up in that. But it actually runs pretty good. It starts right back up. Oh, yeah, gotta push it. So that's one more done. If you like what you've seen, I know I don't go all into the little details of tearing stuff apart in that. I think some of that would be good, but it would be long videos. But if you like what you've seen, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and keep watching. And thank you.